Hey, good morning, folks. Let's get my camera. Let's get my microphone. Let's get my microphone here within range. And so, hey, we're starting. This is my Saturday morning art stream. I do personal projects and commission works. I've been commissioned to help with a book cover for Innoraven's Weapon, which is an Abyssal adventure for high-level characters. We're going to do some ideation, some sketching, and composition idea work today. So give me a second here to check my signal. I'll go through my intro spiel, and then we'll put in 100 minutes of fun. So holding here to check my signal, mic check, put in 100 minutes of fun. So holding here to check my signal, mic check, mic check. 100. Yep, sounds pretty good. All right, great. Let's see here. Setting up for my intro spiel, and then we'll get to work. Hey, my name is Phil Kearney. I create, most of the time, I create role-playing games and then create art for them and then publish them online. There's a slew of links in the description down below that's got examples of different D&D 5th edition stuff that I've done in the past. But on Saturday morning, we are focusing not on the projects that I produce, but other things. Often it'll either be just my personal whims, like the last couple weeks we did some Bob Ross painting and design brush work. Prior to that, we had done a commission for a book cover for Ukulele Bard's Reclement role-playing game that's in development. And today we are working on a book cover for Andy Headley and Brian Holmes of Fallen Woodland Games and Old Goat Adam Headley. They are creating a book, an adventure for high-level characters, an Abyssal adventure, and I have been tasked with doing a half page of art to help integrate into the book cover for what is Innoraven's Weapon, which is a massive scale Abyssal weapon that we'll be able to talk about and mess around with today. So if you Monday, typically in the mornings on Monday through Friday, I do an art stream for book for development of a book that I am publishing, Spelljammer Combat and Exploration, which will also be on the DM's Guild as below. Monday and Thursday night, I work on Eberron maps and creature tokens for an Eberron adventure that will also be publishing on the DM's Guild. On Tuesday lunch, I work on mechanical development of the of a book that I will also be publishing and doing all the artwork for in time, called Martial Powers. So if you're interested in D&D game design, if you're interested in the process of converting a game idea into a PDF, or if you just like artwork, I do all those things here on stream. So on Saturday morning like this, again, we work for others and ourselves instead of projects that I'm publishing as a business. So let's go ahead and get things set up here. If you're interested in following, if you have fun today, you are certainly welcome to follow me on Twitter at Phil Kearney. Otherwise, best way to support the stream is to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications of when I am live 6 days a week. Thanks a lot to new subscribers. We're up to 204 subscribers now. That is, subscribers are coming in more and more quickly. It's really neat seeing that flow of momentum. So thanks a lot to everybody who's been sticking around and having fun, and I really appreciate everybody involved. So we're going to get into this. So I have a full page here set up. I've been commissioned to create a half page worth of art, and a half page is 5.5 by, or 8.5 by 5.5. So let's pull open a calculator here real quick and go with 8.5 times 5.5 equals, so about 46 some odd square inches worth of space on the page is basically what I have to work with. But I honestly don't even know what if we're going to go with a linear format or if I'm just going to work within a smaller, like what I could do is I could operate inside this space and use this as my border limit. But I could also look at it from the perspective of, here, let me create just a giant block here, right? There, I could operate inside this space, like this area here, or I could instead work inside this area here and just have a lower total need depth and detail. So that's not necessarily what I think is going to happen. But then there's also the possibility of transform, of like, I could also build in this space, and it's still going to be roughly the same amount of real estate that I've been commissioned to build art through. So I'm not sure if this is the style. Like this could work really well because that's decent framing. I mean, it would have to upscale a little bit, but that's not an issue with resolution and stuff. It's just a matter of composition. So I could say build something that's like this that helps build framing for the title and the byline at the bottom and puts frames around it. That's a viable solution. But then there's also the actual just width of the half page, which could just as easily be frame center, like Path of Exile style, you know, or like old school D&D. Like let's go look at a book cover here real quick from Dungeons and Dragons, old edition. Let's see, D&D: The Lost City. That's one of my favorite adventures. Images. See, there's only a half-page illustration here as well. It's actually less than a half-page illustration. That's the space that they're filling on this. So I think I have. I don't think I'm going to worry about the composition so much right now, but I think I want to really lock down today the elements that are inside of the piece. So I'm going to dive in. Here's the text that had been provided to me by Andy and Brian about Inroven's weapon. Inroven is a demon that aspired to take shots across the multiverse, so built a dimensional cannon that I'll shortline this for you, but you should be able to. Here, let's do this. I'm going to build text like this, and you can pause at any of these given moments, and I'll just talk about it. So basically, there's a four-legged flesh-built creature that's basically a cannon encased with a quadruped flesh monster that can help scoot the thing around. When you fire the thing, you target a location that you can imagine in your mind, kind of like with plane shift. So you're basically making a plane shift shot from wherever the weapon is located to dimensionally the location that you imagine or are familiar with enough to be able to have a clear picture in your mind. When it hits, it causes a bunch of damage, and in that blast zone, it creates a manifest zone or a dimensional gate that lets you cross from where the cannon is at to where the target destination is. So if I'm in the abyss and I'm firing Inroven's weapon, I could target, say, Mount Olympus, and I could have an impact hit in, like, say, Zeus's throne room, and then a hole opens up that leads directly from the abyss into Zeus's throne room, and now I'm pouring shitloads of demons into Olympus to slaughter the place before they can stop us, just to cause mayhem or whatever. It's also a really great heist device if you don't mind having incredible evidence that you were there because you just detonated a bomb at the location that rips open the dimensional portal. So there's also two forms to this thing. It has the quadrupedic cannon form, but it can also, I guess, kind of like a bear, rise up on its back legs and act as a bipedal as well. So I want to be able to basically address this giant demon bear gun as its own entity. It has, it's its own creature. It has the layer actions here, and here, let me scroll down so you can see this a little bit better while I'm talking about it. So it has Gurf. Yeah, so it has the different layer actions that it can take. Crashing legs, Inroven stomps multiple times. All creatures standing on the ground who can draw a line of sight within 100 feet must succeed on DC 14 dexterity saving throw or be knocked prone. The Unravel portal tries to banish a creature of its choice that it can see. That creature must succeed on a DC 18 charisma saving throw or be teleported to an unoccupied location within 60 feet that it can see. So it can target and block people around. Here's some more flavor text about the weapon's creation here in the Abyss that you can pause and read. Here's Inroven's ideals, bonds, flaws. I love this. If you have if you're building NPCs, having ideals, bonds, and flaws is a great idea to be able to have motivation. This is actually something I hadn't thought of for my own Eberron adventure, and now that we're working on the NPC section of the appendices, I kind of want to do this too. So that looks like a lot of fun. And then there's the actual mechanics of how frequently you can fire the weapon. It accumulates a point per day. Once it gets to 100 points, you can blast open another portal. You can dump spell slots, one spell point, one slot per point, kind of like my mana system that you have linked down below if you want to check it out. But yeah, 100 points, 100 day, or 100 days, and you can speed it up by dumping mana into it. And then here's the rest of the effect of the weapon effect. It creates a blast 50-foot, 100-foot diameter sphere, 10d6 force damage, 10d6 energy damage associated with the plane of contact. So like chaos would be like limbo, for instance, might be necrotic energy, while say Mount Olympus might be radiant and fire energy, for instance. It depends on the plane that you're contacting, what the DM decides. So where geography, creatures, plants, and environments affects, the contacted plant cross over and merge with the local area, creating a nightmarish hybrid. I talk about this a lot actually in my Eberron adventure that I stream on Mondays and Thursdays. This is called a manifest zone in Eberron, and it co-terminates where both realities exist at the same time. That's one of the things that compelled me about this project, is that I'm already doing coterminous planar incursion work. So this is kind of like what I'm into in general already, and I love the Abyss, and I love massive size objects for the scaling mechanics I use in the Spelljammer book that I work on Monday through Friday. So this whole project's hitting a lot of keynotes that are just interesting to me in general. So hey Hornetico, it's good to see you, my guy. And so yeah, that's what we're doing. We're just going to do some ideation today. It's 9:30. I've still got about 90 minutes left this morning for us to mess around with. So the first thing I think I want to do is just create this monster bear cannon thing, and then we can sally forth from there. So sketching, no hard commitments on anything. It's just light doodle, having fun. So let's have some fun. I'm gonna take this stuff. Half-page composition, but the actual dimensions are roughly 85 inches, regardless of, you know, what the actual shape ends up as. So I'll need to consult with the clients, Andy and Brian, to make sure that I'm gonna list this as templates. Just to make sure I understand how they want the composition to be, like what they're imagining for the book cover. But like I just shown, like this is a half-page sort of book cover format that's really old school and famous in first edition D&D Adventures. So that's a real easy way to go about doing something. And then of course we have the block. That's a little bit bigger than a half page, but like it would be. Hold on. More like this is what we're looking at as far as like a half page would actually be. Yeah, about like that. That would be the area of like roughly 85 square inches. So I could go with either format, and this would also be interesting framing. It's different framing from this one, but it's still about the same area. So, I mean, it would be the full width of this. But they can resize and downsize anytime they want. It's just the composition that we end up building needs to be able to fit in with whichever dimensions we go with. This is really basic stuff that people that have done art before already understand what composition is. I'm just pointing it out because it's going to end up being important at some point. But right now we're just going to fuck around. So, drop this down. So we had the reference here for the type of cannon that we're looking at. So that's pretty easy to build. I mean, something like that. So I'm not really so much concerned about that. I'm just going to do some doodle bugging just to see what kind of stuff crops up. So I'm kind of thinking something like, I'm just messing around with ideas and being a kid making tanks and jets and shooting bullets at each other. I used to do that all the time. I had fond memories of, I used to take ukulele lessons, and my sister used to take clarinet lessons. And so we would go to the same music tutor. and we'd have a half-hour lesson each. So, and I was like 5, so I would hang out and draw and just like make tanks. Just fill the page with tanks and helicopters and jets and stuff, and that was a lot of fun. While my sister was doing clarinet, then they'd I'd have my ukulele lesson first, and then she would have her clarinet lesson. Something like that might be fun. But it's literally it's a 70-foot by 50-foot footprint. Roughly like that. Do like 10-foot squares. So footprint like that. So you got cannon, and then you got the mass of the body here, and then you got feeties like that. So it kind of feels bearish. Yeah, I think bear is a decent description. So I'm just gonna, I guess I'm just kind of fucking around. Like that. I could have shoulder joint here, leg here, 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 here. Then back hip here. Even back hip here. Joint, 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 joint. Skew. Boom. Hold on real quick. Give me a second. I gotta throw out a signal to my patrons so they know I'm live. I forgot to say hello. Hey. Boop. There we go. Now they know I'm live. They both follow me on Twitter, but I don't expect people to ever hang out on Twitter. Twitter. That's fun. Anyway, let me fix my screen here. Get back to it. Boop. Bloop. All right. Nope, wrong one. There we go. So yeah, I'm thinking got hip here, and then bop, bop, blop. It's a fairly where was I at? That's right. Here and here. Joint, joint. This is kind of a ankle here. And joint, joint, kick back. Like that. So those are decent legs. Look at this. That's your standard quadruped. This reminds me of Intellect Devourer, but meatier, less brainy, more meaty. I'm gonna steal some reference images for. That's a good one. Yeah, I like the cut of these jibs, man. kind of like that, you know? That's basically what we're doing. But that also helps me. This actually is really great because this helps me give me an idea about like kind of perspective I want to use. Again, I don't know what the composition is going to look like, so this is really useful to be thinking about it like this. And that also really gives me good structure. I like how these things are built and framed, so I can lean into that idea. Thank you, prior creators, for providing such cool shit. I was definitely on the right path. My head was in the right space, that's for sure. It's nice to have the other people's anatomy available to help as a reference point to kind of check where I'm at, what I'm doing. I like that aggressive stance. I don't know how I'm going to use that though. See the thing. So the clip that a little bit shorter here. $70 foot by 50 foot. It's the size of a Trask. That is the dimensions of the Trask. So so basically this is like a Trask with a giant cannon. It's like a colossal sized blastoid. Oh, that's grand. I like that. But the perspective might be really relevant. This also reminds me of Armored Core 6, which recently came out. I do not have the time to play computer games, nor would anyone pay me to watch me fail at them utterly. But I like to stay in the zeitgeist, so I listen to Let's Plays a lot. Actually, Asmongold is actually my go-to for a lot of MMORPGs and first-person shooters. I just like the cut of his jib. Roughly, he's within age range of me that I easily get his perspective on stuff, and he's entertaining. His Asmongold series on Vampire Survivor is, I think, just some high-tier quality shit. I used to be a big Tobuscus fan back in the day when Terraria first came out, because he's really freaking funny. He kind of fell apart. I don't know what he's got going on these days, but I haven't bothered listening. His first person shooter zombie work and Terraria is just honestly hilarious shit. But oh yeah, and Happy Wheels is also his Happy Wheels series is actually really fucking funny too. But for first person shooter and MMORPG, Asmongold is my go-to. I also like listening to Magic the Gathering a lot while I paint. And that is either Legend VD or Covert Go Blue are my two go-tos for MTG content. And I love, obviously I'm a big color mana enthusiast, so I like staying current in the zeitgeist as far as like what's going on in the meta and game sets and stuff. And since Magic is such a big inspiration to my own art production in general, I don't have to spend shitloads of coin for me to be able to stay current. Yeah, man. I know, right? His Terraria work is fucking hysterical. He digs holes to hell, and then he just watches bunnies fall down. Like, no, bunny, no! It's legit funny shit. It is legitimately funny. So, yep, time, man. I have a niece. She's 10, and she spends a lot of times with her friends sending cat memes to each other. I'm like, seriously, cat memes? She's like, yeah. It's like, well, that shit's epic. Here. And then I showed her Iken Has Cheeseburger. She had never heard of Iken Has Cheeseburger. And she's like, holy crap, this is amazing. Sent her down a spiral for 4 hours looking at cat memes and lolrus. Oh, it was great. I used to spend hours throwing cat memes at friends at work. Back in the day, in the early 2Ks, frickin' Iken Has Cheeseburger, legendary. Freaking Loris. I love Loris, his bucket. It's such legendary crap. Let's do this. No wrong answers right now. Go like that, and then here, and then. Snug that in. So it's resting quadrupedic form as a typical attack, and then it also can rise up like a bear. So I don't know how important it's going to be to show it in an alternate form or not. I think the real trick is going to be how to have an interesting composition of both the creature weapon and the dimensional rift that it creates, and have a composition that is addressing the character, like addressing the audience, the point of view. That is not an easy thing to accomplish. Because the way that the weapon works is that it basically you scry a location, you drop a bomb at that location, and then it opens up a spherical portal for you to travel through to that location. And so that's an interesting feat to accomplish. Hence them wanting to hire someone to help visualize the thing. I mean, that just makes sense that they would want to. Both Brian and Adam are great friends. They're well, I built the Eberron adventure with Andy, and Brian has helped me with a lot of like color consulting when I'm doing book covers and stuff. He often checks my work to make sure that I'm on task. So I wanted to do this to help both of them as a thank you. Plus, it's fun content to just build stuff. So very mutual. I don't know how much the secondary form is even going to be necessary for this, so I'm going to pluck that here for a second. I should at least finish the piece, so. There. Just the scale alone is fun. It's huge. 70 feet. Big thing. Big boy. Thicken that up. I like that general design. Giant flesh mecha. I mean, what's not to love about that? Totally up my aisle. One of the first projects I want to do when the Spelljammer book I have done is completed is mecha and Warforged stuff. I don't know how far down the pipe I'm going to be able to get with that stuff, considering the other projects I have on my plate. But I love mecha, and this is a fun tie over or tie-in to that endeavor. Mecha is dope. I mean, yeah. Lancer, yo. People love Lancer. Yeah, that feels pretty good. Diving into my own mental library of mecha from back in the Mech Warrior and Robotech RPG days. Palladium did mecha combat pretty damn good. They didn't bother. They just never bothered with any kind of grid or official, like, it was always theater of the mind. Everything about Rifts and Palladium games in general has always been theater of the mind. So it makes it really, really easy to be able to have drop this out of the way. Combat scaling at basically any size, because it's just descriptive. Like, we never questioned it. It was very easy. It wasn't until I started getting into, like, 3E is when I really started to ever really think about tactical scale combat on a map grid. Like, in second edition and first edition, there was maps to dungeons and stuff, but it very much leaned on theater of the mind. There wasn't any real tactical mechanics prior to third edition. So it was a big paradigm shift and changing in the way of thinking. In my own current game, most of the time I use second edition style. Here's a rough map of the area that you're in and where things are standing. And the rest of it we just kind of resolve with theater of the mind. And the dice style, like how you resolve challenges, like hit miss resolution, challenge resolutions is the general term. A lot of the flavor of a game can be informed by what type of challenge resolution systems that you use, and they can either lean into or out of how you visualize the game as well. Like, D&D is such a physical tactical game. Using, I mean, it like the DMG kind of like offhandedly remarks, like, this is a theater of the mind game, but then says, but if you want to use grid combat, here's 20 pages of content about that. And I can really appreciate that process, because I had to go through that same thing with scaling ship combat in the Spelljammer supplement. So I really got intimately familiar with how much mechanical language needs to go into tactical options in games. And GURPS was the first one that I had experienced that back in the late 80s, and it had never appealed to me prior to third edition D&D. And the only reason I went with it was because specifically it was D&D, because I was such a D&D fanboy that I just wanted to play third edition. It's like, here's all this tactical stuff. It's like, oh, this is really cool. It gave a lot more reason for mechanics in general in the game that just weren't necessary in prior editions. But and then 4E leaned hard into it, super hard into the mapping, and then 5E just kind of stayed there. Hey, Text. You wanted to make a Lancer supplement that added a bunch of Magitech style mechs. Hell yeah, dude. Start sort of bleeding in from Eberron's DNA into Lancer. Ended up starting work on different Lancers. Right on. It's always out there for you, buddy. Yeah, I want to do a shitload of Warforged stuff. I love Warforged. Quit the timer. 10 o'clock. Still got an hour. We're doing good. I like the general look of these things, so I think we're gonna have. I'll be able to pass off the sketches of this stuff to the client when we finish up the session today, just to get their idea, just to get their read on if they like how this thing is looking in general. I want to do a. I think I've mentioned this before, but it's been a number of months since I had. One of the things that a toolkit adventure I want to build is it was the thought originally was to have it in Descent into Avernus, but I'm not sure if I'm going to go with that direction anymore or not. But the idea is to have trenches, like a hex crawl that's just a bunch of trenches. It's like you have like foxholes and trench lines, in the Abyss, Descent into Avernus would make sense because Avernus is the front line of the blood war between demons and devils. So like Avernus is like the front line. You have enemies come in from each direction and they clash with each other. So there would be, and then DIA introduced the Infernal War Machines idea, and Eberron has Warforged. So take all that shit together and then have 50-foot wide foxholes and trenches that are running for infinite miles throughout Avernus. And dotted throughout them are, like little pillbox and strongholds, with cannons like this that would be positioned in them, taking shots at each other at, 500-foot scale. And so have hex crawl basically like an open air dungeon crawl of corridors and passages that lead up into different rooms, and the rooms are basically like structured strongholds, and those strongholds have AI mecha inside of them that defend that point and are dictating different tactical decisions for that block of eternity where that foxhole region is. So the idea is for characters to go into the trenches and crack open these bunkers to dig out all the tech and AI that's inside of it, to then repurpose to build more mecha as like a salvage sort of thing. But at the same time, there's demons and devils from both sides that are trying to take control of these areas. So you're trying to weave between the two demonic forces and fight the AIs that are trying to defend the bunkers. Peel all that stuff out and build your own army to carve out a space that you can call your own inside the Blood War. So that was the master idea. I actually I had an Eberron campaign that I was running, actually using the Cypher system that used this trench bunker idea. They'd go in, they'd have to either like negotiate with or combat the different defense systems that were in it. If they can get to the AI, then they could potentially win it over and convince it that the war is over and that it can stand down. But if they couldn't convince it, then they'd have to end up fighting it or taking control of it. And then again, they'd peel it apart to build their forces as they move through these. It was in this mountain range between Thrain and Aundare where this was located at. It was just mountain passes one way to the other, and there's too much anti-aircraft that they couldn't just send airships over the top of the mountain. They would have to go either around or through, and then so they just had a shitload of Warforged bunkers built up inside the through, so that Aundare wouldn't be able to ever push through that. Not Thrain, Brayland, Aundare and Brayland. So Brayland had a massive pile up of mecha munitions to keep Aundare from crossing that border, so they wouldn't have to worry about their northern end, and they could just focus on Seer to the west, to the east, and not worry about their flank at the west, because that's where Eldine reaches are at, and they were generally neutral in this whole conflict. So, but I like this idea. I think this thing looks pretty cool. Feels very very much REF, like the Invid Invasions from Robotech, the second generation, where instead of being blocky and compartmental, it was all much more like curved frame and high gloss metal. REF, that's right. It was there was a Robotech Defense Force, and then it was a Robotech Exploration Force that sent the SDF-3 out into space to try to find the origins of the Zentradi species and free Zentradi's enslaved by the Robotech masters from the Southern Cross series of books. And then they ran into the Invid, and the Invid eat protocol, so they caught wind of the REF fleets, decimated them, went back to Earth, took over Earth, and that's what became Most Piata, or the third generation of Robotech with like the Cyclones and the Alpha Jets, which was a really cool series. If you don't know Robotech, either the books or the TV show, super cool history there. The books go really deep into all the Invid stuff. It's super cool. Okay, I'm happy with this design stuff in general. So I'm going to block that off as sample stuff. Sample stuff. Reference. Pull that reference over to here. Sample stuff. Now, what we want to do here, we want to start playing with composition, page design stuff. How are we going to do? I got to get my elements together. So we're going to have a cannon here. Boop. And then there's a portal that it creates. So what if I... we have a portal. Okay, crappy portal. And then we have our weapon. This actually might be the best way to do that. To use the portal to create like a framing for the thing, and then have it stepping through. Hey Brian, it's good to see you, my guy. I'm gonna top down into a portal. Is ground level. I'm glad you're here, Brian. Thanks for being here, man. Okay, so you've probably had an opportunity to look at the stream. Is this kind of design a general direction, like the gist of what you want? Obviously, it's not detailed on. I got to get like veins, sinews, bones, but I mean, I could do a lot of fun stuff with like wrapping bone frames around here, underpinning, then like have muscles connecting this stuff. Okay, great. Glad to hear it. Okay, great. So my guts are good. And so let's look at... Okay, so let me get that gobbledygook out of the way. So let's see, look at it top down into a portal from where the viewer is ground level at the target. So it looks like where the weapon is above. Okay, good. The one that was on the left. Yeah. If that honestly, it feels like an intellect devourer. Okay, so here's the challenge with design. The focus of the piece that you've provided me information for is the weapon. So the camera has to be facing the weapon. If it's a top-down view of the weapon, then it's basically going to look something like this. Right, I mean, of various details, but, you know, feet here, cannon here, and then feet here, and then bop, 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 feet here, right. So that's, that, I don't know, Use the portal to frame the weapon, which is exactly what I was, oh, okay, I see. Cool, then I will sally forth. My idea here is to have the portal frame it, so like it's as though it's like halfway in, halfway out to show what I don't want to do is try to guess at what the portal's destination is, but we know we know it would be coming from the abyss. So I can have, you know, red and hellishness in the background, like heavily de-emphasized, but back there nonetheless. Hey, since you're here, and I'm glad that you are, if you guys are thinking about the composition of your cover, is it like I was earlier on in the stream? Where'd it go? Reopen. Nope, that's not it. Let's go back to the Lost City. There. Whatever. Lost City was a decent movie. Like, this was a style of first edition adventure covers. I don't know if you guys have thought about the composition of the cover. Since it's a half page being put on a full page space, I can either have this horizontal orientation where it's 8.5 inches wide and 5.5 inches tall, or we could do more of a block format, which I had here. Like, this is roughly a half page worth of content, but it's oriented so that it's more of a square that would have thick framing, a broad byline, and like potentially like DM's Guild content. Like here, I'll show you the way that I did it. DM's Guild and Universal Spell Points. Like, this is how I designed the half page. Well, that's actually technically a third page, so you'd have more horizontal volume. But as you can see, like all the copyright information, byline, and all the credits, and the DM's Guild symbol all here at the bottom side of it with the cover at the top, kind of mirroring this old D&D style. So I don't know if you guys have an idea of how you want your page to lay out on that, but that will help me lock down what the composition, like how I'm going to build the composition moving forward. Like, if I go with this general like portal framing idea, that goes towards the square effect, but as you can see, I can easily finish the breadth of it. So, is on an island in the Glimmer Sea, Underdark. It's a weapon from the abyss, but it's on to, oof, bad news for Toril. Okay, more for Old Good. I prefer things being vertical, since the book is generally vertically oriented. A border around the image is consistent that way, but okay. So I can get what I'm envisioning can honestly go either way. It's just how much content is going to be there. So okay, Glimmer Sea, Underdark. So I don't really have to have any kind of detail on either side of the portal. I can just focus on, and in that sense, as a portal, if I had a vertical or a horizontal alignment, I'm just downsizing this for demonstration purposes, but I could easily do like magical effects that are kind of like a black hole, and then the canon thing is like halfway in, halfway out of it. But I could also do that in a vertical orientation just as easily. So if we got the, you know, the weapon, and then a portal that is coming through, we could easily have energies that are moving off in any kind of direction. It's the central core of it obviously is going to be the weapon, and then the portal framing the weapon, and then any kind of magical bleed or radiation effect off of that will be able to fill the composition either vertically in a more square format or horizontally, vertically or horizontally. So we should have a lot of flex space with that, with just like ripped reality, negative energy, force effects, sort of visual candy. So I think let's go with what looks best in the composition, and the rest of the cover will could flow around it. The image is the important thing. Right on. So I will again just follow my gut, and we'll see where that takes me. Where'd my bit go? Nope. Meowsar. There we go. I'm actually going to take this all back. Because I like where this is going. So let's go. Beep, 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 beep. Ba, 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 ba. Beep, 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 beep. Text. Honestly, there's many ways to lay out code. Yep. Yeah. Fair enough. Okay, cool. I'll just go with my gut then. And it shouldn't be any kind of difficulty in being able to size it up or down if you want to have more or less borders on the side. But I'm thinking I'm just gonna go more of a blocky template, like maybe something. I suspect this thing's gonna end up feeling something like that. So it'll be easy to resize up and down a bit, but plenty of byline and top space. So this is where my gut is leading me to go. So I'm just gonna keep that in mind. How are we doing on time? 10:20, still got 40 minutes, plenty of time. I want to have it slightly off center. Because like directly overhead or directly in front is it's not good composition in general. It doesn't provide enough perspective, like literally perspective, to get a good eye of what it is that what was being built. So I like this. Like a little catwalk in the front. Giant gear. It's meaty flesh stuff, so like hard mechanics like gears and spokes and wheels. Less so. I can do like a bone. Like a balcony like this, you know, that people can stand on. Hello, I'm drunk over here, firing my magic weapon. Yarb. And so you have that across the front there. And depending on how far into detail we can get, will depend on how much composition I need there. But a weapon with a cannon would normally have like a gear wheel that would allow to orientate up and down, but since it's flesh, it's more like bone. But I want to kind of keep that biomecha feel to it, having like mechanical structure sort of idea without I don't know. I'm bouncing between these ideas in my head between sinew and bone. Like muscles work are basically like hydraulics, right? So you have your shoulder, your arm, your elbow, your forearm, and then you have your bicep here. And the muscles are attached here, it's anchored in the shoulder here on the bone, and then there's two pistons. There's the tricep and then the bicep, and they're both hooked on hinges here on the forearm. So when this muscle contracts, it pulls the arm up. And when this muscle contracts, it actually squeezes down. When this muscle contracts, it pulls up, and that causes this arm to go down again, and then this one relaxes. So when this one pulls up, this one relaxes. When this one pulls up, this one relaxes. So you get the up and down effect of that, of having reverse pistons pulling on the arm, on the fulcrum at the elbow, up and down. So that's a hydraulic system that basically all flesh muscles are built off of. Then there's gear shafts and flywheels, where you have a gear and then the arm is attached to the gear either here or here, but you have a central chain, basically in one form or another, but a chain that when the chain goes this way, it goes up, and when the chain goes this way, it goes down. So those are basic physics. So like on a tank, you'd have these big gear wheels underneath the actual cannon itself, and those gears are part of a larger wheel that you can then have another wheel underneath it. So if I turn this wheel this way, that makes this go that makes the bigger wheel go that way, which makes the nose go down. If I have this smaller crankshaft here and that goes this way, when this turns this way, that pushes the rest of the wheel in response this way, which makes the nose go up. So when you see these little gearboxes down there, the larger structure of it is like this. And then you have flanking gearboxes on either side of the cannon that's meshing with the gear here. And this gear is actually a flywheel that's determining here underneath that. You have the gear here where the cannon's at. I don't know if I'm using a lot of this and that pronouns, but the reason I'm talking it through because there's the hydraulics of the muscle, and then there's just the flywheel effect of being spun on a motor, and it's flesh. So my brain, the logic would say pistons with a muscle system. But the tank-ishness of the turret on top of it makes me feel like I want to stay with a gearbox motif. So I'm currently going through the process of resolving those two conflicts. So literally drawing a tank right now, right on my eye. So this TED Talk is pretty cool. Glad to hear it, my guy. It's that's just the miracle of coincidences, eh? So we have all this sinew that's building up as armor around it. I'm thinking I'm gonna chop all this stuff out. Chop, chop. Oh God, I just got ridiculously hungry. Let's put some coffee in my belly to help quell that ghrelin a little bit. Give my liver something to do while I work. See, it's right. It's actually a 100-foot diameter portal, so I need to pay attention to my ratios. Blah, 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 bigger. That's about the actual ratio. Because if I've got a 4x4 square here, I talk about Spelljammer mechanics all the time with upscaling sizes at the 50-foot square when you're dealing with vessels, like in vessel combat, like melee combat with rams and grappling weapons and stuff. So at the 50-foot scale, that's essentially what we're looking at here, because this is a 50 by 70 foot. It's technically filling this. It's a little bit bigger than a 50-foot square, but we can just eyeball it as a 50-foot square. So this is a 2x2 at the 50-foot scale, which is 100 feet. So that means that the weapon is fitting roughly inside of a 50-foot square. We know it's actually bigger than that, and technically, it and the Tarrasque, for instance, would occupy that 100 by 100 foot square, even though it's only 70 feet in length. But at the same time, you can see how, if I were to center up that circle, this is roughly the space I would occupy coming through this portal. So if I up this to 50 feet, 100 foot in size here, we can see where that circle is supposed to sit, and that's the exact size frame of the bulk of its body right now. So we're doing okay. But for drama, I think I want to make it just a touch bigger. Where's that coming from? Get out of here, you scallywag. I'm not liking how that's de-emphasizing. I want big. I want biggage on this guy. So I think maybe I need to have the. I think I'm going to cheese the size on it, even though we just had that little diatribe about scaling and like true sizing on stuff. For composition's sake, I think I just want to have the portal be a little bit bigger than the weapon. God, this is really straightforward. Okay, the more I'm looking at this, the more this feels like a Sepultura album, like Chaos AD or Arise. that's the kind of vibe that I'm really kind of just getting from this thing right now. I would definitely listen to Sepultura if it wouldn't cause a strike against me. That's what nuked my Twitch channel, because I constantly was listening to Sepultura, Pantera, Tool, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd. It's like, yeah, you're never gonna get monetized on Twitch. It's like, okay, later. I learned my lesson. I'm gonna go to YouTube and play straight. But yeah, I think I can get away with a. That feels pretty. It's not like I'm getting away with anything, but it feels like that's what I want. So I mean, it's a pretty basic design. But I don't want it being too side facing, because then it becomes more of a schematic than an illustration, and it's not engaging enough. So I'm trying to, and I don't want it to have just like a passive stance. I want it to be more. I need to get aggression, hostile. Like the Abyss is total red black energy from the color Magic the Gathering color philosophy. So there needs to be more aggression. It doesn't have a face, and it's a fairly stable platform. So the only way I'm going to be able to get that aggression is like a kind of feel going. So that's going to have to be expressed through the way that it's lurching through the portal. Although tactically, I don't think it would ever want to actually go through a portal. I mean, if it's on its own, if it doesn't have a legion of demons, I don't know the full breadth of the adventure, so I don't know if it has forces, legions that are under its command or not. But on its own, it'd be awfully risky for it to expose itself by stepping through a portal. But dramatically, compositionally, it's super cool to do it that way. Hey Brian, are there troops that go with it? Have you ever seen the electron microscope close up of a grasshopper knee? That might also provide inspiration. No, honestly, I haven't. You mean the kickback angle of it? Do you want a chitinous shell, or do you want bone and flesh visible? Because chitten's just armor. It's fucking fun to do. But I don't want to assume... Reference. Boom, 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 boom. There. Yeah, right now all I'm really worrying about is posturing and composition, like to get a kind of feel for it. Is there a face or any kind of eyes specifically to this, or is it maneuvered only by like I know it has an intelligence unto itself, so I assume it has some sort of perception or awareness, but I didn't want to make any assumptions about that until I had any kind of... It's not the thing I think to ask until I get into it. I'm like, it feels like there should be a face or something on this. Because if there were, this would be the place for it. Right underneath it, like forehead cannon. But it could also be like a Mega Man sort of weapon. It has no mouth, but it has like eyes and a noggin on the top, like a soldier sticking his head up out of a turret hole. Or it could have neither. But yeah, the idea of grasshopper legs back here helps with the perspective a lot to get those limbs in without having them pile up over each other too much. That's a really good call, Brian. Muscle that in like that. Yeah, it's too late for me. I'm starting to fall in love with this picture. No backing out now. Like there was ever a chance. But this also helps shape the portal language. Where are you coming from, Ace? Let's get out of there. Meh. Meh. There. grasshopper. God, it's such a delicate frame. Insects are pretty amazing. Like just the strength of leverage that they get from the material that they're built at such a small scale. It's just ridiculous leverage that they create. So they can have like really thin limbs be able to carry many times their weight just because of the structural, just because of the strength of the material that their chitin is built from. That carbon is really strong at such a small scale. So now I'm going to have to start thinking about the muscular system that would be used to redirect and change the angle of the cannon itself. It doesn't have to have a lot of mobility because the way that the quadruped itself would be able to adjust its tilt and its tilt on the different axes because of the way that it would arrange its legs. But I still want to have, you know, just because you can move your arm a lot doesn't mean that you don't need to have a shoulder that you can lift and lower as well. It's you have to have more degrees of articulation to be able to have free flow movements. So the cannon itself would also want to have some of that freedom of movement instead of being like absolutely fixed and relying on leg positioning, because it could be on unusual terrain that has it hanging on at a weird angle and it can't really afford to shift its balance, so it needs to have its own sort of shoulder frames to be able to hunch and shrug the angle of the cannon while it's in a fixed position. Let's just do another layer all together here. Ball joint, ball joint, ball joint, ball joint, here, cross, plop. Then here is the angle of the back leg, and then angles down like this, and then back like that. Yes, I hear you. Should have 20 minutes left, right? Yeah, I got 20 minutes left. Yeah, we're right back where we were. Well, I'd rather go for the journey and come back to where I started than not know that it was the right path in the first place. I specifically want to break frame with the cannon. here. I can do a skew. If there are legions of demons that that Inarevan has command of, then we could have all sorts of foot soldiers that are coming through the portal to help give a sense of scale of how big the weapon is. Like little bats and stuff that are flying around up here. A little rock. But I don't know if there are armies of demons that are accompanying this or not. But if there are, this is a really easy way for us to be able to cheat in language and get some texture going here. Like we could have a tree. Like a tree would be this big, right? Have this thing pushing into a forest, knocking trees aside and shit. That would definitely give a sense of scale of how big we are here. And it would help add a lot more color language in. I have like a little fire burning down here. Horrified little trees. I have a little friend here that's on fire. A happy little squirrel that's running for terror. Unhappy little squirrel. And I can have mountains in the background here to help build a frame around where this thing's tearing through into normal reality. I actually kind of like that a lot. I kind of just stumbled into this. I'm kind of geeking out over it. Good stuff. Because any chance I can get to cheat in some landscape Bob Rossi type of stuff is a great day to me, man. I mean, if there are no Legions of Doom, I can still do the landscape into what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know what word I'm looking for. But this will certainly give a good sense of scale of these trees getting toppled over. That's probably the best way I can go about framing a sense of scale, because people know how big trees are, right? So, yep. Oh, sorry. I just had the thought of Bob doing a painting and then just tear a giant hole in it and have like this thing come through and just start like it catches that little cabin on fire next to the river. It's just cutting down trees. Oh man, that's so fun. I fucking love it. I'm suddenly very, very much in love with the idea of like just like like concealing this, doing a Bob Ross painting, and then just tearing the fuck hole through the middle of it. It's so fucking fun. Oh man. There's like a death cult in that little cabin in the middle of the forest in the wintertime. They're just doing all these blood sacrificial rituals things, and like the hell portal opens up next to it. Anyway. Sorry, that's me geeking out. But yes, I think this is a decent composition. I'm pretty fucking happy with this. So where are we at? We're at 10:45. What I do need to know is are there soldiers and troops that I can have coming out of the portal with the weapon? I like this straddling. The next thing I need to do is get a confirmation that the composition is good. This is a little bit more than a half page, but here we go. It's just a touch more. Once I start integrating like more landscape elements into it, then I'll fudge it. This thing, I have utter confidence that something like this, I might have to fudge the specifics, but yeah, I think this is gonna end up being fucking cool. is the bottom line. So I'm gonna adjust that. So I can spend the time that we have left here to try to drop in some details to sell the idea a bit more on the canon. And then when we're done, I'll drop this into conversation with Andy and Brian to make sure that they like the direction that we're going. And if they do, when we come back next week, we'll continue developing the anatomy of the weapon itself. Holy shit, though. I absolutely love that. I'm gonna build like a little bit of a bridge here. Had my follow-up appointment with my doctor about my leg infection. There was some remnant heat and still a little bit of swelling, so they put me on another week of antibiotics. So that was on Tuesday. So I'm hoping the swelling has certainly gone down. It's almost gone. There's still a little bit of itchiness and not really much redness left, but still have some twinges. So I'm hoping that after the weekend that's going to burn off and my legs should be back up to maximum capacity. He doesn't want me exercising vigorously until the infection is gone, in case there is a chance that it would spread. Additional cardio activity would just cause the infection to get spread through my blood system quicker. So he wants all the redness gone before I go back to my normal exercising routine. But I am anxiously awaiting for that because I'm really enjoying daily workouts. It's been a long time since I had a consistent rhythm to any kind of routine. Noise. Start building little ball joints in here. Nice. I like how this is coming along. It's just light detail work here, just a little bit of anatomy and perspective that we're figuring out here. Once we actually get, if this gets approved, then we'll be able to then zoom in a lot more and start like working on specific anatomy and getting all the details stuff in here. Get pretty damn intimate with the amount of work that we can get in here, and have a lot of language about like bone, and like have like little muscle masses here that we can have throughout it, so we can have like this really good flesh mecha sort of effect going on. But right now we're just working at the general composition level, and I'm pretty sure this is gonna do what we need it to do. So where are we at? It's 10:54. So this is roughly where our composition is right now. It's got like the command cab up here up front, and then the larger mass of controlling the angle and pitch of the weapon and the turret. And we have the back chassis here. It's a counterweight and as a sort of hip bone for if it decides to rear up on its back legs, which we don't have to really worry about in the composition here. But yeah, good start. Good start. Nice ideation today. Really happy with where we're coming along. There, that's a pretty good design there. It's a good start anyway. So if we get that approved, then we'll be able to come back, and actually I can probably drop the scale on that just a touch. Fucking fun, man. Fucking fun. Oh, man. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it for today. This is what we're doing Saturday mornings until it's done, probably for the next month. Mid-October, I anticipate this being done. We'll see. We'll just see how quickly it moves. There's nothing too complicated about any components in this piece, so we should be able to break it apart pretty easily. The landscape I can probably get done in one session. The dimensional effects and troops from hell, assuming that there are troops from hell that are going to join this thing through the portal. And get that resolved in a week, and then I can spend a few weeks on the details of the weapon itself. Yeah, I'm really excited. All right, this has been fun. I'm really enjoying this project. What a nice lark. So I'm here 6 days a week. I do this on Saturday until it's done, and then we'll pick up either another commission or I'll just start working on my own stuff. On Monday and Thursday nights right now, we do Eberron Adventure assets. We spent 100 some odd episodes building a shitload of maps for the adventure. Now we're doing NPC art and creature tokens. And then on Tuesday at lunchtime each week, we do the martial powers system for giving martial classes more options in 5th edition D&D. We are actually developing the mechanics of that text, fleshing out the document. So if you want to see like the ideation process and like the nuts and bolts of building a PDF, an adventure supplement, or a game mechanics supplements, that's what we do on Tuesday. And once that's done, we'll hand that off to an editor, and when they give it back to us, we'll do page layouts and then all the artwork for that before we publish it. The Eberron adventure that we work on Monday and Thursday right now, it's still going through the editing process. Once that's completed, we'll be able to break up all the text from that into page layouts for the adventure. On Monday through Friday morning for the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration supplement that we've created, we already finished the text, editing, and page layouts. Now we're taking all the gaps in the pages and filling it with spot art, diagrams, and charts and stuff that help provide visual elements to whatever's being discussed on that particular page, so you can see that ideation, that production process. Once all that is done, we then drop that onto the DM's Guild for people to pick up. That moves the Eberron project from Monday and Thursday mornings to Monday and Thursday nights to Monday through Friday mornings, just like we're doing Spelljammer. It becomes our primary morning project. That then opens up the window on Monday and Thursday nights for us to advance the Martial Powers project into twice a week, which we would then still be able to have the option of doing Tuesday lunch if we chose, or I could pick up a different, smaller project for the Tuesday stream. Like, for instance, I could finish the Spell Point Sorcerer project that I've been working on. So I can keep cycling through projects as we go, but I also have my home table is coming. We're at 19th level now, so our campaign is coming to a close, and they want to do a Spelljammer campaign after that. So I may be spending, in the future, my Tuesday lunches doing campaign development to build out like the hex crawl sort of system with that for the ships and the kind of asteroid dungeon delving that we'd have. So it'd be a practical application to the Spelljammer supplement that we'll be publishing shortly. So we build something and then we provide proof of concepts. This would be a fun way of doing that. On top of that, I want to get a playtest team of 3rd to 7th level using the martial power system that we developed on Tuesday, so that I use the martial powers already at the 4th tier of my game, but I want to test that at a lower level to make sure it still has a good feel to it, even though the lower level characters will have less resources available to them. So I need to go through that I need to go through that process so I can spend time on stream on maybe on my Tuesday lunch, developing what that hex crawl system would look like to challenge martial power characters specifically. So we got some stuff that's going on, and as we finish something, we pick something else up, and we just keep rolling through stuff and keep punching out content and keep building assets for it. So if anyone that's lurking out there or catching the stream after the fact, if this stuff seems cool to you, like and subscribe and stick around, and we'll talk shop. You'll see how all this stuff builds out. We'll have fun while we do it. If you're here just for the artwork, then a lot of my stream is just artwork, so be welcome to stick around there as well. Follow me on Twitter at Phil Kearney if you're so inclined to do so. But otherwise, I will have tomorrow off. I will be back on Monday morning to... Monday's a holiday, so I'm not sure what my hours are going to be like, but I think I have at least a couple hours on stream. I don't know what my evening is going to look like, if there's going to be like a barbecue or something. I don't know what my plans are, but I believe we're going to be doing at least a little bit of work in the morning. So I will catch everybody then, and have a great weekend.